W.
Welcome back to Cohort W, the podcast where we dive deep into the evolution of the warrant officer cohort, where we've been, where we are, and most importantly, where we're headed. I'm your host, Chief Warrant Officer 4, Jessie Morlan, and this season we've been taking an unfiltered look at the modernization of warrant officer professional military education. We know the battlefield of tomorrow won't look like yesterday's fights. As warrant officers, we're expected to be the technical and tactical experts, the advisors senior leaders rely on in high-stakes environments. So how do we ensure PME is not just relevant, but future-focused? That's the conversation we're having this season. And today, we're taking that discussion into the intelligence realm. And to do that, we have the perfect guest. He's the 9th Chief Warrant Officer of the Military Intelligence Corps, or the MI Corps, and the Command Chief Warrant Officer of the United States Army Intelligence Center of Excellence, or USAICoE, which means he's at the helm of shaping the future of MI Warrant Officers. But here's what makes this conversation even more unique. He's the first ever Signals Intelligence Technician to hold this position since its inception in 1999. That alone tells you he brings a fresh and critical perspective to the table. From his early days in intelligence to leading modernization efforts today, Chief Warrant Officer 5 Peter Davis is with us to talk about where MI training is headed, what warrant officers need to be ready for, and how he's tackling some of the biggest challenges facing PME. Chief Davis, welcome to Cohort W. How does it feel to be on the other side of the mic today?
Well, hey, thanks, Chief Morlan. I really appreciate it. It's an absolute great honor. Listen to many Cohort W podcasts, so having this opportunity to hopefully provide some shared understanding and some insights into what the Intel community is doing for both Intel professionals and Army professionals of all various cohorts is an outstanding opportunity for me, so I really appreciate it.
So your journey to becoming the 9th Chief Warrant Officer of the MI Corps is an incredible one. Leadership at this level isn't just about expertise, it's about vision. Looking back, how did your early experiences shape your path to this role?
Hey, so perfect question, great question. I talk about this with my peers and some of my mentors all the time. For warrant officers, kind of reaching the general officer level and being an advisor at this level is a lot of discovery learning, and I think kind of purpose built mentorship and development is how we're going to be more successful. I think as warrant officers, we're always going to be able to react to discovery learning and figure things out, but I think the more you're developed, the better chance you have of greater success. So for me, it really started when I was CW3. I had been doing signals intelligence pretty much. That's the only thing my entire career. I had some mentors, CW5, Matt Martin, Kevin Boughton, and Andrew Megovich, who kind of pulled me under their wings as senior leaders. And I found myself, all good and hard work is rewarded with more hard work. So I got pulled up to HRC, and that kind of started my macro vision of what it is to manage, what it is to see the entire intelligence warfighting function from not just an intelligence perspective, but in this case, kind of moonlighting as a 420 and seeing it through the AG lens. So that was a great experience there. I then got pulled out to be the warrant officer proponent. So again, there's me working across both Compo 1, 2, and 3, along with all the different disciplines in the intelligence field. We have 7 different disciplines. So working across all of those to ensure that from the personnel perspective, we were getting after the right things. I then from there went to be a brigade command chief. So this was my first tour, not just doing specific intelligence technical tasks, but also leading at the O6 level. Intel, unlike kind of aviation and SF, we don't kind of purpose build, battalion and brigade CCWOs and of various levels. So this was kind of my first dip into that, which gave me a lot of great experience. I then came back out to our Intelligence Center of Excellence to be the Chief of Warrant Officer Training. So running a training branch, running all our PME courses, working and manage multiple field grade warrant officers. I had 31 warrant officers who worked for me. Was a great experience to kind of go through that leadership, go through that development. At the same time, Chief Anderson was at CAC and we were doing PME modernization. So for the Intelligence Corps, I started that. And then all of that got me selected to this position. And I would say that exposure to all those different jobs, that exposure to seeing things through a different lens, definitely prepared me to come into this position if I had just gone through nothing but doing signals intelligence, working in that career field and then coming here. I hope my work ethic would allow me to still succeed, but I definitely think I would have had challenges because even with all that experience, this position remains challenging.
As the first SIGINT warrant officer to hold this position, you're bringing a perspective we haven't seen before at this level. How has your background influenced your approach to leading the MI Warrant Officer cohort, and are there specific challenges or opportunities that come with being the first in this capacity?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, the majority of the people who've held this position have been our all-source techs. Those are our fusion techs. That's kind of the center of gravity for the intelligence warfighting functions, where the single sources are typically feeding that. But I think that really helped me because as someone who was always feeding the all-source portion in the fusion, I always wanted to know how that worked so I could know how to better feed it. So I've always kind of dipped my toes in that to kind of try to make myself a well-rounded intelligence professional. But as being SIGINT, it's kind of great timing with a lot of the modernization systems we have right now. General George, General Rainey are putting a lot of emphasis in the counter UAS, the EW, and then long-range precision fires realms. And counter UAS, signals intelligence, plays a lot in terms of detection and support to targeting of those electronic systems. And then same thing with EW as we look to flesh out what is EW. Signals intelligence, again, works in that electromagnetic environment. So our ability to modernize and work and build out EW and support those formations and work in the counter UAS realm has been a real great opportunity for me to kind of stretch my legs at this senior level, advising, General Appelhans, who's my commanding general, to kind of do that on behalf of the MI Corps. And then as we built out these multi-domain task force and we've looked to do long-range precision fires, well, the Army has only limited detection capabilities. So signals intelligence through some national technical means and some other assets that we have has been a great opportunity to figure out, okay, as we buy hypersonics, as we buy prisms and SM-6 missiles, how are we going to fire those munitions and have precision targeting advantage over the enemy? And signals intelligence plays a role in that. So, and it ties back with the other disciplines, which is great for me, but it is, puts a smile on my face when I get to re-dip myself in some good SIGINT stuff at this level. So thank you for that question.
Let's shift the conversation and talk a little about modernizing Warrant Officer PME. At your change of responsibility ceremony, you made it clear the time for modernization is here now. What key initiatives are underway to modernize Warrant Officer PME, and how do they align with the Army's broader transformation efforts?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm looking back, seeing that I said that, I didn't know how much modernization and how much urgency was going to be. So the good thing is, it keeps me busy. It keeps our cohort busy. It keeps the MI Corps busy to get after modernization. But the additional thing is the emphasis from senior leaders. So General Rainey, General George, the word urgency is not just, sugarcoating. They are legit trying to get after it, and they are pushing everybody to go fast. And fast in the Army is typically uncomfortable, and I think they're comfortable with us being uncomfortable, and we just got to get after it. So it's been a great opportunity to kind of see how we can revolutionize some of the things that we do in this space, across the .mil-PF, so material, policy, and everything else. But that goes to kind of your question with training in PME. So as we modernize systems and force structure and policy, the education of our technical experts and the warrant officers have to be part of that. So I believe that's kind of when it started, when Chief Anderson, who was my predecessor, moved up to CAC, and General Beagle kind of said, we gotta modernize warrant officer PME to get after the future threat. That kind of gave me the green light to do some modernization within our cohort, which we've begun.
Technology is advancing at an unprecedented rate. AI, machine learning, cyber warfare, and advanced analytics are changing how we operate. How is the MI Corps ensuring that warrant officers are not just keeping up, but mastering these emerging technologies?
Well, so I'll be honest with you. Participation is key. So what I tell a lot of the warrant officers every time I get in front of a class or I go out, right now, again, I give all the credit to General George, General Rainey, and where they're putting the pressure with these transformation and contact events. So TIC, as we kind of acronym it, started out at 1.0, and now we're moving to TIC 2.0 with multiple additional brigades and divisions. And these are opportunities for us to experiment, innovate, try change, move things forward, move things fast. We also have Project Convergence, which is kind of going on right now out at Fort Irwin. That's another exercise where warrant officers are out there along at these TICS events, getting new kit. We're giving them new innovative technologies, asking them to see what works, what doesn't work, how can we enable and enhance lethality. And then we have, General Rainey is working on the Army warfighting concept, which is how the future Army is going to work. So that's forcing the intel to go, okay, we need to create an annex for house intelligence as a key enabler, going to support the warfighting concept. And then the newest thing that General Brito has introduced is what we're calling institutional transformation in contact. So what that is, instead of just having, lessons lost, we're now taking any feedback, any white papers, any lessons learned, anything that we get from these units going to these events. We're immediately putting it through a deliberate process here at the institution to get that directly into institutional training that the CG signs off on, because previously that could be anywhere from a 5 to 7 year process. We're now looking to turn that around in under a year, which is phenomenal, because now that's going to allow the institutional education to at least keep pace with some of these technologies. I don't know if we'll ever be able to match industry, but I think this at least keeps us at a pace where we can stay in the fight.
Nice. Yeah, that's the kind of mindset shift that makes all the difference. Technology is only as effective as the leaders who know how to leverage it, and MI warrant officers need to be at the forefront of that effort. Military intelligence has a deep-rooted history in Army operations. The challenge is, how do you maintain that legacy while still pushing innovation forward? How do you approach balancing tradition with the need for change in PME?
Oh, again, great question. So, some of us warrant officers and some people, especially in the intelligence field, we're very stubborn. We do it this way because it's the way it's always been done. But for me, what I would say is, I'm a fundamentalist. I really believe in the basics, and the basics will always be the basics of intelligence. So starting from the basics and then building our foundation to the future is what I stress and what I message. So it's taking something as simple as intelligence preparation of the battlefield and then overlaying that with digital applications and overlaying that with some form of machine learning that's pulling in massive amounts of data. So you're still doing it the same way. You're just receiving different feeds, and you're sometimes displaying it in a more coherent fashion. Because again, for intelligence professionals, we're only as good as the story we tell. So providing a whole bunch of data to a decision maker will confuse and will cause us to lose some credibility because it looks like a mess. So how do we take these massive amounts of data and then through the same processes, but through some technology advancements, and new ways of displaying that data. How are we putting that into a coherent way that tells our story and maximizes the decision maker for situation understanding, support to targeting, and enabling their operations. So I think it's just relooking it. I think we have to keep the basics, because I think sometimes you can change so much that you'll lose the foundation of what it is you're doing. And then you kind of go into this spiral of chasing technology, but then the output that you're giving isn't coherent. So that's kind of the way I look at trying to balance it, is ensuring that we're leveraging large amounts of technical data, but still telling that simple story that allows commanders and leaders to make decisions.
Yeah, that's such a great perspective. And I really like how you mentioned the word stubborn at the beginning of your response, because it's definitely about evolution and not revolution, and honoring the past while building a future that ensures the MI Corps remains the Army's premier intelligence force. So, you and I both know that PME isn't just about classroom instruction. It's about mentorship. How is mentorship being integrated into PME programs to foster the development of future MI Warrant Officer leaders?
Yeah, so this is a big one for me. Again, when I started telling you my story, my story really took off. Like I was a good, solid signals intelligence technician, but I don't think I became an intelligence professional and a leader in the Corps until I had some mentors kind of tell me things that I wasn't even thinking, because, with warrant officers, sometimes we get in our little thing that we do, and that's just what we see as the 50-meter target in front of us. So what I've done for my foxhole is, to me, it starts with, I can't build greatness without greatness. So it comes from talent management and talent alignment of who I have out here at the center and who I have on platform. Because usually, and especially with our basic course, but frankly, with all our courses, the person on platform in front of them is the person who sets the standard. They're the person who's going to be able to have those engagements, have those conversations, have those mentorships. And sometimes it's a peer situation. So, in certain cases for WOAC, or ILE, they're the same grade, but how that individual presents himself, the experiences that person has, are really matter to the students. So I try to ensure that the cadre here are some of the best that I have in the cohort, and that's always painful because they want to be out there doing the thing, and the commanders want them out there doing the thing. But again, to me, it's a force multiplier because I'm building more officers here, so I'm getting them and I'm sending them back out with more advanced personality training and just how to kind of get along. So that's usually what I start with, is just ensuring that the talent management is aligned. And then we have some deliverant touch points with senior leaders. So it's getting the W5s on this base and other W5s, again, up and away from their desk. And even if it's virtual, giving their experiences. And I would tell you that I've had great success with, W4s and W5s wanting to have the touch points with the warrant officers out here and actually getting after it and enjoying it. Because I think a lot of us might not get to do it a lot because some warrant officers are one deep in certain locations for a really long time. But then when you get that exposure to kind of offload a lot of your experiences, it kind of clicks a light in their head and they kind of ask, hey, when can I come back? When can I have another engagement? And then it kind of just builds from there.
We always say PME should reflect the realities of the operational force. How does ICO gather and incorporate feedback from recent graduates and field units to continuously improve and adapt the PME curriculum?
No, thanks. Again, like all of this is great questions, and you're obviously tied in with what the senior leaders are doing. So, I think I mentioned it before. Me and General Appelhans and General Hale of the DAG2, he's our 3-star. We call it lessons lost. Like for a long time, I think, we would get a bunch of lessons learned. We would put them in some kind of digital repository somewhere, never to be seen again. So we've really wanted to maximize lessons learned and to ensure that they have an outcome and an output and they change direction. So at both the CAC, TRADOC, and institutional level here, we've started lessons learned sprints where our teams are going out to various units. Again, it's all tying everything together. So it's the situation going on in Ukraine with the CAGU. It's the situations going on where our TIC units are going out to these transformation and contact events. It's our teams that are going out to Project Convergence to demonstrate new technologies. And then it's this institutional transformation and contact. So as we do these sprints, we're asking students, every time they're in front of us, ensure if you participate in one of these events, even if you don't want to do it, even if it's not your skill set, write a white paper. You have to have an output, because our ability to execute lessons learned and put that into PME is only as good as what's documented. So, that kind of starts it every time we get our warrant officers in front of us out here. Ensure that you're putting pen to paper or some type of digital medium. We have a digital publication, the MIPB, that we're putting articles in. Now with the Harding Project, there's a lot of emphasis on professional writing. That's been a big thing for General George, and General Applehans really loves that. So we're stressing the Harding Project, and we just started the Julius Parker Award. It's a new award that MI Corps gives for the best writer for writing an article. So we've emphasized that. And then again, I think that feedback where, what I do is anytime we take an article and we put it into the institutional transformation and contact process, I send that information out to the individual who wrote that article so they can see the fruits of their labor. They can see that, oh, I didn't spend all this time writing this paper. I didn't do this thing, and it just went into another digital database. No, there was I won an award. I was recognized by the commanding general. I saw it in a publication. Chief Davis sent me this email that shows me that my article is now transforming how we do signals intelligence analysis to support EW as an example. So I think that's kind of part of it. Is one, is emphasizing it. Two, it's having command emphasis. So having our general officers say it matters too. And then again, I think as a human being, it helps to see your thing affect a thing. And I think that just motivates people to kind of get after it more.
Yeah, that's such a wonderful response, and definitely a way that we're ensuring PME remains relevant. The worst thing we could do is create a static curriculum that doesn't reflect what's happening in the field. Right, so modern warfare isn't just fought in silos. Joint and multinational operations are the new norm. What steps are being taken to prepare MI warrant officers for these complex, collaborative environments?
All right, so I think the intelligence warfighting function is inherently joint just by the nature of kind of how we operate. We do a lot of intel sharing, so that's a good part of it. But I go back to senior leader emphasis. So here recently, about a month ago, we had the Intelligence Senior Leader Conference, and we had intel leaders from 7 different countries. And that was important for us to ensure that our fellow intelligence professionals from those 7 different countries saw how and what we were doing with modernization, had opportunities for them to present how they're doing modernization. Helps, because then it kind of creates that teamwork culture. Because again, for intelligence, it's only good as the source. And, while I love the United States intelligence, while I love what we do, access is king. So some of these foreign nations have accesses that we frankly just don't have. So being able to have shared confidence in each other, that we're safeguarding their intelligence, but also effectively leveraging it, has been really helpful. Again, I would point back to what we've been doing out there in Europe with the CAGU. The relationship from the intelligence professionals over there in Europe and what they're doing to support Ukraine and other foreign partner nations is immense. We have people who are out there in Poznan in Poland who are working with the Polish military, doing, some of the greatest intelligence that I've seen. Also the emphasis with JMRC. So we just had 310 out in Germany that had a Polish division HICON. So having those engagements, and then out in the Indo-Pacific with JPMRC, another, DIRT CTC with multinational partners is critical. And then I would tell you, for our intelligence professionals in Korea, even in my discipline, SIGINT, which is one of the hardest ones to have any kind of sharing, we have Army intelligence professionals with Korean ROC SIGINT professionals working side by side. doing the thing, getting after it. So I think those reps and steps, and again, to me, output is where you judge the pudding. So when we're looking at, are we getting effective intelligence with the sharing, it almost always is enhanced when we do it with partners or joint services than if we're frankly just doing it alone in a stovepipe.
Every modernization effort comes with challenges, whether it's bureaucracy, resources, or just resistance to change. What are some significant challenges you've encountered in modernizing Warrant Officer PME, and how have you worked to overcome them?
Oh man, great question. So the thing I'll start with is the positive. And bureaucracy within the TRADOC realm used to be probably king, but senior leaders have broken that. Again, General George's relentless nature to not let bureaucracy slow the train. General Brito is moving in the same direction. So those senior leaders, and again, General Rainey, 4 stars, right? They make the difference. But when your 4 stars are like, I don't want excuses, and they then enable you to break bureaucracy, gives you some flexibility. So that's been very helpful. But the challenge is resources. That is one of the things I would say getting to this level is one of the most eye-opening things. When I'm working intel in a unit, I'm just doing the thing. Here every day, I'm sitting with our general officer. We're talking to the Army G8. We're talking with various senior leaders about resources. So PME modernization is a perfect example. There's no money for Warrant Officer PME, so you better have a bill pair strategy. So when Chief Anderson and now Chief Toronis were in the seat and we were working through PME modernization, it was excruciatingly detailed spreadsheets of how we were paying for everything. Intel kind of got lucky because we were divesting from our turboprop aircraft as we go to a medium altitude jet aircraft. And there is kind of a few year gap between the turboprops and the jets. So we were able to repurpose that money and put it towards Intel PME. So that actually gave us a jumping point to allow us to start modernizing PME almost immediately. Because, a vision without resources is an illusion. So you're getting nowhere without money or people. So the other thing I would tell you is ensuring that I had curriculum developers. So my instructors are my instructors. As they develop and they modernize the PME, I also need curriculum developers to write those lessons plan, to write out that curriculum. And within TRADOC, manning is definitely on the struggle bus. So for us, it was then getting senior leaders. And again, I really thank General Brito here because he told his G1, ensure that the COEs are getting their fair shake, because I need them to have instructors. So I was able to then kind of go to HRC, work with the people at HRC. And again, everything's a zero-sum game. So as I work to get more instructors, some units are going lower on readiness. But if we don't have the instructors here and I don't have the curriculum developers here, POI moves nowhere. And then they're getting warrant officers, they're getting intel professionals that aren't ready to meet their unit. So it's kind of a chicken and egg thing when we try to figure out how and where to place emphasis. But that's the main thing, it's been the money and the people challenge. But I think at least here at our center, we've had some very good success, and it's been due largely to senior leader emphasis and a lot of hard staff work. And, that's one of the other things up here. I do intel as much as I do, general staff work, because at the end of the day, you can have a great idea, but if you don't staff it into reality, it turns into nothing. So after, you have your big idea, you got to roll your sleeves up and start doing some spreadsheets and working out some numbers.
Looking ahead, what is your vision for the future of Warrant Officer PME? And how do you see ICO's role in shaping the next generation of MI warrant officers?
Yeah, so really, to me, it's having everything paid for, going back to our resource thing, having it codified, and we just worked on that, ensuring that, we did a thing with some Department of Army G1 personnel and CAC to ensure that all of our courses got put into ATARs, because again, an idea isn't anything until it's codified in an Army education system, which now it is, which is great. And then two, it's iterating on it. I think a lot of this is what we thought at the time, but as the Army and, new administration, new Sec Army, what is his priorities going to be? There's going to be some iterations, some tweaks to it, but keeping it moving, keeping it going. And then we've also looked to do more seminars, a lot more adult learning, less just PowerPoint, more actual engagements, more getting maybe a feedback or an exum from our DIRT CTC, getting in front of people out here for like our ILE. We start to teach, which will be our Warrant Officer Senior course. We're going to start getting more and more into how the Army runs. So not just do how the Army runs for what they're teaching out at Novacell, but taking an actual Intel modernization system, putting it in front of them and saying, okay, take this thing through its life cycle. So giving them actual tangible opportunities to work and play and figure out and get some lessons learned and learn some hard lessons, as a senior leader warrant officer who frankly has to get outside of your comfort zone. So I think that's what our PME needs to because the warrant officers in their units, they're doing the thing and they're doing it exceptionally well. I think one of the things we have to do here is pull warrant officers out of their comfort zone and make them do things that they're frankly not accustomed to be doing, in a controlled environment, because that is absolutely what is going to happen to them as the Army transforms and modernizes. Again, like out at Project Convergence, the 82nd Airborne, they throw everything out of a plane. We gave them a piece of kit out there that absolutely does not fit outside of a plane, but we handed it to them because we needed them to experiment with it. So now they have to play with this Frankenstein system and make it go. So just those challenges, just those out-of-the-box engagements is stuff that our warrant officers are actually having to deal with out in the field. Again, in a very senior leader, Sauron's eye, looking down, okay, Intel, what are you doing to modernize? And their experiences, and I hope and think what we teach them in PME will allow them to continue to be successful. And that shows the value proposition of the intelligence warfighting function to senior leaders. And it goes back to that resource thing. That way, the next time that senior leader Intel systems come up for modernization or money, they go, okay, I saw the value of that at a TIC event, or I saw the value of that out at Project Convergence. And that just frankly helps us across the board. And then the last thing I would add is kind of a vision that, Chief Anderson and I kind of had with some other warrant officers is, I really hope this Warrant Officer Master's course comes to fruition. And that will kind of be, the top of the ice cream for us, where we actually get out at Leavenworth and have an opportunity to kind of go to a master's course where at the W5 level, I think it's another touch point to kind of, again, prepare those senior leaders to go into positions like this where, my boss, although I'm a signals intelligence person, if he could only come to me for SIGINT stuff, I would be of little to no value and quickly find myself working probably in another building with 4 feet of space between my walls. So I have to be able to operate and span across all of our disciplines. But then I also have to go to my boss when he's talking to General Beck. How are we engaging with the engineers in that organization? Or how are we engaging with Special Operations Center of Excellence? And then how are we engaging in working with General Janovic and the team out there at the Cyber Center? So not only do you have to know your various disciplines, you have to be a master at integrating that discipline with other disciplines and warfighting functions. So to me, that's what our Warrant Officer PME has to teach our young and older warrant officers, is kind of pull their head up from where they're looking and doing their thing. And again, getting that macro vision that allows them to be not just master technicians, but master integrators across the field.
That's a great in-depth response with a bold and necessary vision. Warrant officers are the connective tissue between strategy and execution, and ensuring they're ready for the future is absolutely mission critical. Sir, do you have any final thoughts or words of wisdom for our audience?
I would just say for the cohort, both past and present, And those who may be listening who are thinking about becoming a warrant officer, putting on this rank is not easy, right? What I tell every warrant officer who I talk to is embrace the frustration, embrace the challenge. Again, we do not have enough people. We do not have enough money. We do not have the force structure we want. Intel, as an example, we're delivering the force structure we can afford, not the force structure we need, because that's where we're at. So the challenge is going to be real. But to me, at the end of the day, that's what warrant officers do best. We innovate, we iterate, we get after it, we find solutions. But there is going to be stress. There is going to be challenge. But I will tell you that the way the Army senior leaders are pushing things, that reward is going to be paid back, and you will see the fruits of your labor. It's not going to be kind of the way I was, where you write something or you do something, and 5 years later, you're like, oh, that thing became a thing. So I would just, that's the one thing I would say is, if you're frustrated, if you're like, I can't believe I keep getting handed stuff, or I don't have enough people, or I can't execute this because my grade plate or my structure isn't right, that's almost on purpose, because we're building what we can afford, but we still have a responsibility to make it work. And again, like I said, with General George and General Rainey, excuses are mildly interesting. So I think we have to embrace it. But as warrant officers, that's where I think we become the most innovative. And I think that's where the O and the E grade see us, and they're like, wow, those guys are doing their thing. They're over there making the magic happen. And I think that's, where we kind of are at our best. So that's what I would just add as an anecdote.
Chief Davis, this has been an incredible discussion. Thank you for your time, your leadership, and your dedication to ensuring the MI Warrant Officer cohort is ready for the challenges ahead.
I really appreciate the opportunity. Again, like I said, I think professional things like podcasts and things like this are outstanding opportunities for us to kind of share and expand kind of what we see. So I just want to thank you, Chief Morlan, for what you do. I think this is a great service that you provide, not just to the warrant officer cohort, but frankly to the Army. So I do really appreciate your efforts on this. It's value added beyond what you believe. But all I would say is kind of, again, pointing back to you, participation. You asked me to participate in this. I have a lot of things to do, but you make time for the things that matter. So I think as we look to modernize, warrant officers have to kind of make sure that, your presence. As senior advisors, you're only as good as your presence in a meeting where a decision's being made. So again, besides just the technical aspect of doing the thing, we have to also drive the thing. We also have to enable the thing. We also have to ensure that senior leaders are getting good technical advice and some steerage from the warrant officer cohort. And again, at the end of the day, they get paid and they own all the risk. So for, even at the pinnacle of the MI warrant officer, I own no risk and I have no authority, but I conduct and I enable that on behalf of my general officer. And my goal is to ensure his success and the success of the MI Corps. So that's what I would just tell warrant officers: ensure that you're an active member, and you're not just a potted plant in meetings, and you're not just, sitting there at the desk doing the thing. Ensure that you're getting up and out and you're getting after it. And you're an active advisor to whoever the principal it is that you work for. And doing that, I think, is the best that we can be for the individuals who wear this rank and support the Army. Thank you.
And thank you, sir, for leading by example and participating in this episode. And to our listeners, thank you for tuning in to another episode of Cohort W. Stay tuned as we continue the conversation on modernizing PME. Until next time, stay sharp, stay ready, and keep leading from the front.